The Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those not entitled to privileges of the floor will please retire to the gallery. The senators and all in attendance will stand and be led in prayer by the Reverend Brian Rafferty, St. Stephen Martyr, Roman Catholic Church, Chesapeake, Virginia. Reverend.
Ladies and gentlemen, we gather in this chamber this afternoon coming from a wide spectrum of faith backgrounds, some well-defined, some much more broad, others perhaps a little bit amorphous. Therefore, I invite you to join with me and each other in seeking a power beyond ourselves to guide, to inspire, and to challenge this assembly for the work that lies ahead. Let us pray, reflect, and ponder. Creating God, we come together today in gratitude and appreciation for the wonder of creation as witnessed in this Commonwealth, from its Atlantic waters to the Appalachian Highlands, from the borders shared with North Carolina to those of Washington, D.C. and Maryland, and thanksgiving for the gift of life and all of its manifestations that nurture and sustain and amaze us, teach us reverence, respect, and wonder, and responsibility for all that surrounds us and for all whom we encounter. For this we pray. Gathered together here, we come from a great variety of backgrounds, social, economic, educational, political, philosophical, and ethnic, with a diversity of ideas, yet we are all Virginians. Give the members of this Senate curiosity to know each other and the humility to listen and to learn from each other, so that from this diversity can come forth wisdom, its first fruit that generates innovation, flexibility, and concord in addressing the needs of the people they represent, rather than discord, incivility, and stalemate. These men and women have answered a call to public service, a vocation to represent the needs and the interests of all of the residents of their respective districts, working together to seek the common good for the betterment of this Commonwealth. Drawing on truth that can be derived from the multiple talents and opinions brought together here, may a solid foundation be formed upon which a stable future for our society might be built. May short-term gains or self-interest never prove to be an obstacle to true vision. Rather, Lord, grant depth of perception, clear analysis, and creative response to the needs of our time, for solidifying the common good, for we freely choose to be your people and act accordingly. Bless the members of this Senate with the clarity and stamina that they will need. Give them courage to speak truly and patience to listen. Bless and guide the members of their staffs who work behind the scenes to assist them in their responsibilities as a representative body with a long and inspiring history. Most of all, help this body to keep faith with the people for whom they have been chosen as their representatives, irrespective of their status, always being aware of their human dignity and the well-being that they must be honored here. With personal integrity, enable them to exercise day-to-day decisions that will uphold the Constitution of the Commonwealth and bring enlightened hope to a society entitled through a long-standing and hard-won tradition of a free and active democracy. By doing so, they will serve you, the source of all creation, the people that they represent, and the Commonwealth of Virginia. Amen.
The clerk will call the roll. All those present, please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal for Friday, January 19th, 2018.
The senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 4.
Ayes 35, noes 4. The reading of the journal is waived on the birthday of the senator from Portsmouth. The clerk will report any communications from the House of Delegates. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe that's the first of the session, so perhaps we should read it rather than... I'm sorry. It's very cavalier. I would respectfully move that we waive the reading of any communications received from the House of Delegates. So.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the communication be waived? All in favor of waiving the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 3.
Ayes 35, noes 3. The reading of the communication is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the governor.
I do not have any, sir.
Now it's come the time where we welcome visitors here to the gallery in our morning hour. And I'd like to call on the senator from, he's not here right now, call Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the purposes of introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, in the gallery, we have the parents and grandparents of our Paige Reese Smith. Have with us Shelley and Gray, Reese's mom and dad, and her grandparents, Whit and Lynn Smith. If you could offer them the warm welcome of the Senate and assure them that Reese is doing a great job, not causing any trouble or leading anybody astray.
I thank the senator. Would the Smith family please rise in the gallery, if you're able? Thank you all. Sorry. You're going to get 2 rounds of applause because we are going to wait until I give the warm welcome to the Senate, and then we'll all clap together. But if you wouldn't mind rising one more time. And thank Senator McDougal for having you here today. And we will assure you that Reese is doing a fantastic job. In fact, I got to see Reese just this morning. And so thank you for allowing your daughter and granddaughter to be with us and to serve in this great Paige program. We're honored that you would allow her to do that, and look forward to a great session. So please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to the Smith family. Senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the purposes of 2 introductions.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you so much. So, Mr. President, I'd like to make sure that we recognize in the gallery today some friends of mine and a friendship that's developed very closely over the last 2 years. We have the Virginia Families for Medical Cannabis. This is a coalition of patients, parents, caregivers, and allies working to expand access to Virginia's regulated medical cannabis program. They're joining us today, and they support legal access to safe, regulated medical cannabis oils based on a recommendation by a certified physician. They're here to lobby today on behalf of the Joint Commission on Health Care bills, Senate Bill 795 and House Bill 1251.
I thank the senator. Would the members of the Virginia Families for Medical Cannabis please rise in the gallery if you're able? See on this side. Thank you all so much for joining us here today. Thank you for your advocacy and for your work on a very important issue that I know touches close to home for you and for many families here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So we really appreciate you engaging in the process and all the work that you're doing. So I would ask everyone here to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to Virginia Families for Medical Cannabis. Senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would also like to introduce the members of Virginia Society of CPAs. Let's take a moment to recognize that several of my constituents and members of the Virginia Society of CPAs are meeting with all of the legislators here this week as a part of their annual Assembly Week. They have also delivered a tax guide, which I know I use every year. I hope you guys look at that, the VSCPA's Legislators Tax Guide, to answer our common tax questions from the position of elected officials. Please welcome the members of VSCPA. It's easier to say Virginia Society of CPAs.
Thank the Senator. Would the members of the Virginia Society of Certified Public Accountants please rise in the gallery? Oh, good. Yeah. I was going to say you're all accounted for. Thank you. I have a lot of bad dad jokes, a lot of those. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I want to thank the Senator for welcoming you as well. You do very important work here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, serve a very important professional role. And so thank you for your leadership in that profession. And I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to the Virginia Society of Certified Public Accountants. Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I rise for an introduction.
The Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, we have a number of colleges and universities from across Virginia, from private colleges, who have brought students here and groups here and parents, I suppose, as well, to advocate for our tuition assistance grant programs. And I'm privileged today to have a group from Bridgewater College, from beautiful Bridgewater, Virginia, here, a group led by Scott Morrison. And, Mr. President, I would be grateful if you would extend a warm welcome of the Senate to this group from Bridgewater College.
I thank the Senator. Would you all please rise in the gallery? Thank you so much for joining us here today, and again, for your advocacy and work on a very important issue. Access and affordability in higher education is something that's really critical, and the TAG program is essential to that. So thank you for what you're doing. I want to thank Bridgewater. It is a beautiful place, as the Senator mentioned, and a great college. And I would ask everyone please to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to Mr. Scott Morrison and members of the Bridgewater College Tuition Assistance Grant Advocacy Group. Senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
I wanted to introduce some members of the Garden Club of Virginia. As most of the members know, there are an important statewide group that works to preserve the natural beauty of the Commonwealth, and there are about 200 members here today from around the state. There may be other legislators introducing some others, but I wanted to call your attention to distinguished members of Garden Club of Virginia in the gallery. First, Diana Reynolds, and you may recognize that name because of her distinguished family. Diana Reynolds is related to our, she's actually the daughter-in-law of our former Lieutenant Governor, Sergeant Reynolds. He served as our 30th Lieutenant Governor, as well as a member of the House and the Senate, and has, of course, Sergeant Reynolds Community College named for him. And she's accompanied by Lisa Mountcastle from the Garden Club of Alexandria, which is an important group in my community. For those that don't know, the Garden Club of Virginia was formed 98 years ago and has chapters all over the Commonwealth. So with that, Mr. President, I'd ask that you extend the greetings of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would Diana Reynolds, Lisa Mountcastle, and the members of the Garden Club of Alexandria and of Virginia please rise in the gallery, if you're able. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We echo the kind words of Senator Eben about your leadership here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Also have a special affinity for the Reynolds family, one of the great families here in Virginia history. And Sergeant Reynolds obviously was a very distinguished public servant and stood right here as well. So we are very thankful to you and appreciate you very much, and would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to the Garden Club of Virginia. Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, rise for the purposes of an introduction.
The Senator has the floor.
I'd like to call your attention in the gallery to Mr. Lawrence Webb and other members of the Falls Church City School Board, and I would hope that you would extend the good wishes of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would Mr. Lawrence Webb and the members of the Falls Church City School Board please rise? Thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm very familiar with our school board member, Lawrence Webb, and your distinguished leadership here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I also know that you have roots and family in Lunenburg and other parts of the Commonwealth, so you have a far reach, and we're grateful for the work you do every day on behalf of our children here in the Commonwealth. So I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to School Board Member Lawrence Webb and the members of the Falls Church City School Board. The junior senator from Richmond, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. Joining us in the gallery today, we have representatives of the Virginia Women's Equality Coalition who are here for their 2018 Lobby Day. The Virginia Women's Equality Coalition promotes women's health, safety, economic opportunity, and democratic participation. They strive to ensure that all Virginians and all Virginia women are able to fully participate in the social, economic, and political life, irrespective of their race, class, income, immigration status, involvement with the criminal justice system, disability, religion, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Mr. President, I ask that you would welcome them to the Senate.
I thank the senator. Would the members of the Virginia Women's Equality Coalition in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for joining us, this really large and impactful group. We're grateful that you're here at the Senate today and at the Capitol advocating for the very important cause of women's equality. And the senator from Richmond City laid out how important that work is. So we are grateful to you and look forward to working alongside you. I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to the Virginia Women's Equality Coalition. The senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, I rise for to make a request and then make an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
I'd request that the Journal reflect that my desk mate, Senator from Roanoke City, is out of his seat today for a matter of pressing personal business.
Without objection, the Journal will so note.
And for the introduction, Mr. President, this week is School Principals Week in Virginia, and today in the gallery we're delighted to be joined by a delegation from the Virginia Association of Elementary Principals, led by their president, Cheryl Jordan from Norfolk. I'd ask, Mr. President, that you extend to them our greetings and thanks for their educational leadership that is reflected every day in our principals and teachers and schools.
I thank the senator from Bath. Would the members of the Virginia Association of Elementary School Principals in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for joining us here today, another large and very impactful group. I'd echo the senator's words about the work that you do and how critically important it is to everyone here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, educating our children, taking care of our future, and making sure there are no limits for our young people. And so thank you for your dedication, your commitment, what you do every single day to make us better. And I would ask everyone please to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to all of the members of the Virginia Association of Elementary School Principals. Do any other senators wish to rise for the purpose of an introduction? Okay. Go here. Senior Senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction and a request.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I'm very pleased to introduce to you the Reverend Brian Rafferty. Father Rafferty is my parish priest at St. Stephen Martyr Catholic Church in Chesapeake. He's one of the hardest working priests you're ever going to see. We literally have hundreds of families at St. Stephen Martyr, and he's our one single priest there. He's aided by a couple of deacons, but he's working all the time. The other thing is Father Rafferty has been sick, so he actually came out of his recovery to come here and share his prayer with us today, which I really appreciate. We like him so much because actually he gives really short sermons on Sundays. You know? And actually I need to dispel a rumor that's been perpetuated by Senator Black, that Father Rafferty's receding hairline is not due to my confessions. I just have to say. But, Mr. President, I hope that you'll offer Father Rafferty the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the senator. Father Rafferty, would you please stand in the gallery? Thank you so much for joining us here today. You gave a very moving and beautiful prayer to open us up for session today. And Senator had nothing but kind and generous things to say about you and your leadership of your parish and also here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to Senator Rafferty.
Hey, Mr. President.
Yes, Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. A request, Mr. President, I do this with great trepidation because in my 16 years in the General Assembly, I've never done this before. But, Mr. President, I request unanimous consent to introduce a bill relating to motorboats and the propulsion thereof. This will fit within my bill allotment as well, Mr. President.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce a bill relating to motorboats and the propulsion thereof? All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The consent of the Senate is granted to introduce the bill. The Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise to request unanimous consent to introduce two bills, and if I might, one and then the other.
The Senator has the floor.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I have this anti-militia bill. It's an Attorney General's bill that I'd like to ask unanimous consent to introduce.
The question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce a bill relating to anti-militia? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The consent of the Senate is granted to introduce the bill.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. My second bill is charitable gaming bill, and this is the House version, the Senate version of the bill that's introduced in the House by Glenn Davis.
Okay. Question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce a bill related to charitable gaming? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The consent of the Senate is granted to introduce the bill. The senior senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise on point of personal privilege.
Will the senior senator mind doing that at the end of the day?
But yes.
Promise to come back.
I'll wait until.
Thank the senator. The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Steph.
Mr. President, I must apologize because I know in the past I've had a faulty button and you may not or you may have seen the light today, but I rise for the purpose of an introduction and I'm not going to stand up and say as you were, Mr. President.
The senator
Just
has
wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, today we have Linda Hayes here visiting from Virginia Beach. This is her first time visiting the Capitol. Senator Wagner and I share her as senators from Virginia Beach. And she is not just the principal at Pembroke Elementary School. She's an advocate for all children of elementary age all the time and everywhere. She's a wonderful lady and joining us for her first time in the Capitol. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Would Ms. Hayes please rise? The gallery. Thank you so much for joining us, and particularly on your first visit here to the Capitol. We're honored that you would spend time with us in the Senate and the gallery, and Senator D. Steph has said very warm and glowing and kind things about you and your leadership for our children. So thank you for everything you do every single day to make their lives better. And I would ask everyone please to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to Principal Hayes. Senator from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, in the gallery with us today, we have 4 students from Centerville High School who are here with their government teacher, Kathy Ruffing, who actually was my daughter's government teacher back at Mount Vernon High School a number of years ago. These students they and their colleagues have been working very hard in learning the legislative process and drafting bills and those types of things, and they're here to present some things today. So hope it'll be your pleasure to welcome them to the Senate.
I thank the senator. Would our students from Centerville High School and their government teacher please rise? Thank you all so much for joining us here today. We're always happy to see bright young students who represent the future of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you for participating in the legislative process. Thank your teacher for her leadership and educating you guys on the importance of what we do here every single day. So keep up the great work. We thank Senator Barker for having you here and would ask everyone please to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our students and teacher from Centerville High School. The senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to submit a bill.
Okay. What does the bill relate to, Senator?
I'm sorry, the bill relates to, it's a companion to a House bill that deals with reoccurring flooding.
Reoccurring flooding. The question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce a bill relating to reoccurring flooding? All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The consent of the Senate is granted to introduce the bill. Do any other senators wish to rise for purposes of an introduction? Seeing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Monday, January 22nd, 2018. Uncontested calendar. Senate bills on third reading.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move that all the Senate bills on the third reading on the uncontested calendar, which would include all Senate bills on pages 1 through 8, excluding Senate Bill 318 through Senate Bill 550, be placed on their final passage in the block. If any senator desires to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 1 through 8, Senate Bill 318 through Senate Bill 550, be placed upon their final passage in the block, with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 318.
Mr. President.
Senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Could Senate Bill 318 come out of the block, please?
Without objection, Senate Bill 318 is removed from the block.
Senate Bill 92. Senate Bill 127. Senate Bill 137. Senate Bill 228. Senate Bill 231. Senate Bill 232. Senate Bill 249.
Mr. President.
Senator Chase.
Could Senate Bill 231 and 232 come out of the block, please?
Without objection, Senate Bills 231 and 232 are removed from the block.
Senate Bill 249. Senate Bill 271. Senate Bill 332. Senate Bill 376. Senate Bill 383. Senate Bill 404. Senate Bill 430. Senate Bill 477. Senate Bill 501. Senate Bill 503.
Mr. President.
Senior Senator from Richmond City, Senator Sturtevant.
Could Senate Bills 501 and 503 come out of the block, please?
Without objection, Senate Bills 501 and 503 are removed from the block. Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can Senate Bill 249 on page 4 please come out of the block?
Without objection, Senate Bill 249 on page 4 will be removed from the block.
Senate Bill 546. Senate Bill 550.
The question is, shall the bills in the block pass? That is all bills except for Senate Bills 318, 231, 232, 501, 503, and 249. All in favor of the passage of the bills will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Returning to page 1, Senate Bill 318.
Senator from Mecklenburg, Senator Ruff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Senate Bill 318 deals with Virginia's SWAM law. It passed this body unanimously last session. The proposal deals only with definition of a small business. Under current law, a business can qualify as a small business if they have fewer than 250 employees or their sales are less than $10 million. This describes over three-fourths of the businesses of Virginia. What the bill does is charge the administration with the task of setting new standards based on the type of business. The federal government has used such a system for years. Mr. President, I renew my motion to pass.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 318 pass? All those in favor will record. The senator from Hampton, Senator Locke. For what purpose does the senator rise?
Mr. President, I rise in opposition to Senate Bill 318.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I'd like to bring 3 points to the attention of the members with regards to the federal size standards that tend to be a little bit too high. The definition for a small business adopted by the Federal Small Business Administration is based on federal industry size standards for businesses who plan to do business in the federal procurement system. These size standards are too high for our small businesses that do business within the Commonwealth of Virginia. 97% of all Virginia businesses have between 0 and 25 employees and are considered micro businesses. 77% of all U.S. firms have between 0 and 25 employees. These firms will be competing for state contracts with big businesses who will be able to apply for their SWAM certification if this bill passes. Only approximately 2,000 of 21,154 SWAM certified businesses in Virginia now meet federal requirements for the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, and we want all of them that do bid on state contracts, and if this bill passes, that will not happen. The purpose of changing definition for a small business in Virginia was to increase participation by disadvantaged businesses in the state procurement contracting process and not the federal procurement process. When former Governor McAuliffe issued Executive Order 20. It was to advance equity for small, women, and minority-owned businesses, issued in 2014. And under that executive order, women and minority-owned small businesses went from receiving only 1.5% or $75 million of over $25 billion in state procurement contracts annually to $1.2 billion at the close of 2017, or over $8 billion in state contracts issued annually. While this is certainly not parity, that executive order is working and improved conditions for all small businesses. If this legislation passes, that will impact micro businesses. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Senator from Mecklenburg, Senator Ruff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would point out that the legislation does not in any way affect micro businesses. There is no definition for micro businesses in the state of Virginia. I would say, and also on the federal side, there are a number of categories. Most of them would place, would more properly deal with what is a small business and what is not.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 318 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all of the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, no 17.
Ayes 22, no 17. Senate Bill 318 passes.
On page 3, Senate Bill 231.
Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would first move that the bill pass, and I'd like to speak to that.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. Senate Bill 231 is our capital outlay plan. We didn't always do this, but I think beginning about 10 years ago, at the same time that we were working on a fairly large bond package in 2008, we developed this concept of creating a plan that was essentially a 6-year plan where those projects that were known to us, whether it be in general services, parks in our park system, or higher education. We would go ahead and plot them out on our 6-year plan, and behavioral health is one of the big ones that's included in this. This particular plan, I think, now has consensus with the House as far as these being our priority projects. It's not a complete listing. Obviously, we will be talking about it back and forth, and perhaps next year we'll have different projects, but it's the plan as it exists now. But I would be pleased to entertain any questions that anyone might have on this particular plan.
Senator Chase. Thank you. For what purpose does the senator rise?
I have a question of the patron.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you. My question is this. I just want to be sure that we are spending, the Commonwealth is very concerned. I know people in my district are concerned with their college students and the rising cost of tuition. And how much of our money is going towards building infrastructure at colleges and universities, and how much of that is going to reduce the tuition of our students, making it more affordable?
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank the senator from Chesterfield for the question. This particular, well, let's step back. If we look historically at our capital spending, roughly 50% or a little better has been spent on higher education over time. That's with a big area that we've expended monies that are currently reflected in bonds outstanding and programs moving forward. This particular capital outlay plan is not as heavily vested in that. We have, as an example, in this particular plan, we have a plan to move forward with a new central state under behavioral health. But in general, Mr. President, I would say to the senator from Chesterfield that it's my belief that we probably are going to have to examine our state colleges and universities right now to address the very point she's raising for a couple of reasons. One, most of our colleges and universities over the time that I've served in the Senate have been growth-oriented. And so as a result of that, they required additional buildings, additional structures. We'll always have a demand for renovations, retooling, and re-equipping our state colleges and universities. But we also are recognizing now that the pipeline of potential students, if we go through back in K-12, that's flowing into community colleges and into higher education, the traditional colleges and universities, that pipeline has diminished. There is not the need for growth that existed in the past. And further, Mr. President, I would suggest to the gentle lady, which goes along with her thinking, that since we're putting a renewed emphasis on vocational workforce training, there will be many young people and perhaps older people that would be training for specific technical jobs in the workforce that will not require a 4-year college education. So I think her point is well taken, and I think it's something we'll be scrutinizing as we build our capital budgets in the future. And I would yield for additional questions if the gentle lady has any. Mr. President, I would renew my motion that the bill pass.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 231 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. Senate Bill 231 passes.
On page 3, Senate Bill 232.
Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I first move that the bill passed, and I'd like to speak to that.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, the Senate bill in front of you is a limited bond bill. It's a 9C bill, which has 2 provisions in it, totaling $21 million. It is $10 million in bonds for new dormitory facilities at Norfolk State University and $11 million in bonds for renovation of dormitories at the College of William and Mary. It's a 9C bond, which will be paid for from the students' charges that they incur for student housing. So I hope it will be the pleasure of the Senate to pass the bill.
Thank the senator. Any senators wish to be heard? Question is, shall Senate Bill 232 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. Senate Bill 232 passes.
On page 4, Senate Bill 249.
Senator from Petersburg, Senator Dance.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking to the bill, Senate Bill 249 is a revenue bill. This bill, if passed, would generate tax dollars for the state without raising any tax rates. This bill comes in consultation with small businesses. Virginia's motorcycle dealers lose an estimated $5 million in sales each year on ATVs, off-road motorcycles, and mopeds because Virginia residents buy from dealers in adjoining states to evade the Virginia sales tax. Currently, those classes of motor vehicles are taxed under the sales tax. Surrounding states impose a titling tax. And Senate Bill 249 makes the tax on the 3 classes of vehicles a motor vehicle titling tax. This makes interstate tax reciprocity apply, so that when a Virginia resident buys from an out-of-state dealer, the purchaser will be required to pay the tax to obtain a title. Since almost all higher-cost ATVs and motorcycles are financed, the selling dealer will collect the sales tax, collect the taxes, if you will, and it comes back to Virginia. So the money that we're losing across the lines will come back to Virginia. We will receive this money without raising any tax rates. This bill will distribute the revenues from the motor vehicle sales and use tax on such vehicles in the same manner as the retail sales and use tax. I would ask the bill be passed.
I thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard? The question is, shall Senate Bill 249 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 3.
Ayes 35, noes 3. Senate Bill 249 passes.
On page 7.
Mr. President.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, have voting on the prevailing side by which Senate Bill 249 on page 4 passed, I'd ask that we reconsider that vote, sir.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the vote by which Senate Bill 249 passed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The motion is agreed to. Senator from Petersburg, Senator Dance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having spoken to the bill, I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 249 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 3.
Ayes 36, noes 3. Senate Bill 249 passes.
On page 7, Senate Bill 501.
The senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass.
Senator has the floor.
Speaking to the bill. This bill actually is a bill that would add Wythe County to the list of counties that can charge an admission tax. Wythe County right now is in the process of building an expo center. They're in phase 2 of that. On that facility is a 2,500 seat arena that will be used for an agricultural type setting. It's the only facility in the area that can hold that many people. The closest one to them would be Kentucky. And this came at the request of Wythe County that they be added to that list of counties to be able to charge an admission tax for that facility. I hope it to be the pleasure of the Senate to pass the bill.
Thank the senator. Do any senators wish to be heard on this bill? The question is, shall Senate Bill 501 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 32, no 6.
Ayes 32, no 6. Senate Bill 501 passes.
Again on page 7, Senate Bill 503.
Senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move that the bill pass.
The senator has the floor.
Now, Senate Bill 503 is actually not a tax bill for those of you that don't like to vote for taxes. We already went down that road last year. We were able to get Washington County put into the list of counties that can charge an admission tax. However, this bill just does a technical language change. At that facility, there is a theater and sports complexes. This language change will allow either or both to be used for that admission tax. I hope it would be the pleasure of the body to pass the bill.
Thank the senator. Do any senators wish to be heard on this measure? The question is, shall Senate Bill 503 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 32, no 6.
Ayes 32, no 6. Senate Bill 503 passes.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 149, relating to smoking in outdoor amphitheater or concert venue penalty.
Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Mr. President, on behalf of the patron, I would like to ask that bill go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 149 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 331, a bill relating to voter registration, verification of Social Security numbers, provisional registration status.
The senator from Lynchburg, Senator Peake.
Yes, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass, and speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill allows or requires registrars to get Social Security numbers of people who are registering to vote. They automatically, if all the numbers match up, they get it through the Social Security Administration and possibly through DMV. We have language to add other entities. If everything matches up, they are automatically registered to vote. If there is a discrepancy, they are provisionally registered to vote, and they are sent a notice, and then they have an opportunity to come correct any of the discrepancies. It also authorizes the registrar beginning the next summer every year to check its roll of voters to make sure that their dates of birth, their names, and their Social Security numbers match. This is a voter integrity bill, and I move that the bill pass.
Thank the senator. Do any senators wish to be heard? Senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Speaking briefly against the bill, sir.
Senator has the floor.
Before we vote on SB 331, I think it's important that we become aware of a report from the Social Security Administration's Office of Inspector General. This is a 2009 report where the Social Security Administration admitted that flaws and errors in their voter registration verification system were preventing eligible applicants from registering to vote. The report admitted that matches using its data can be inaccurate and acknowledged that SSA's Help America Vote verification program, quote, provided the states with responses that may have prevented eligible individuals from registering to vote and allowing ineligible individuals to vote. So with that, I ask that folks vote against the bill.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard? The question is, shall Senate Bill 331 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 20, noes 19.
Ayes 20, noes 19. Bill passes.
Senate Bill 521, a bill relating to investigations and reports of registered voters and persons voting at elections.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move the bill pass. And speaking of the bill,
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, this bill 521 addresses transparency and election integrity. Right now, we have 8 localities in Virginia where there are more registered voters than the census and the Weldon Cooper Center says there are voting age adults. Got that? 8 jurisdictions where there are more registered voters than voting age adults. Now, I guess there can be any number of explanations for that. It may be a jurisdiction in which there's been tremendous growth, and maybe more people have moved in. And since the last census, there just has been such explosive growth that explains it. It could be that we just haven't done a very good job in that jurisdiction of keeping track of the voting rolls and removing people as they die or move out. That's the explanation. But there's an explanation. Or maybe just we don't count very well. Or maybe Weldon Cooper didn't do a very good job of counting. Or the census didn't do a very good job of counting. But I think that voters ought to know, people in Virginia ought to know why there are more registered voters in those jurisdictions than there are voting age adults. What this bill does is it simply requires the registrar to investigate and report, file a public report with the Department of Elections explaining why. And it doesn't allow anybody to be turned away. It doesn't require anybody to be removed from the voting rolls. It doesn't do anything except provide a measure of transparency to the voters of Virginia. So with that, Mr. President, I would renew my motion the bill pass.
For what purpose does the senior senator from Fairfax rise?
I noted that Mr. President, that Senator Edwards, I think, was on the P&E committee and voted against it. I was just wondering if you would let it go by for the day. Hopefully he'll be back tomorrow, because I think he wanted to say something on the bill.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you so much, Senator Obenshain.
Thank the senator. The motion now is to have the bill go by for today without objection. The bill goes by for the day.
Senate Bill 531.
Mr. President.
Yes, Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
I haven't voted on the prevailing side on which this body just passed Senate Bill 331. Asked we can reconsider that vote.
The question is, shall the vote by which Senate Bill 331 was passed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The motion is agreed to. Senator from Lynchburg.
Yes, Mr. President, having previously explained the bill, I submit that it is still an excellent bill. I ask that it pass.
Mr. President?
Yes, sorry, Senator from Prince William, Senator McPike.
For the same reason the senior senator from Fairfax indicated, the absence of Senator Edwards, I ask that this be passed by for the day.
Senator from Lynchburg, Senator Peake.
I will accept that.
Motion is to have Senate Bill 331 go by for the day without objection. Senate Bill 331 is passed by for the day.
Senate Bill 531, a bill to require the Department of Taxation to reinstitute an accelerated refund program.
The senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason.
Mr. President, I move the bill pass. And speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this last summer, a group of regional commissioner of revenues approached me about this program, and they said that they thought it was a valuable service to their constituents. And as we know, they're elected officials. So the Department of Taxation, I think, had done away with it because 82% of returns are filed electronically today. But last year, about 795,000 were filed in paper form. Not all of these would qualify. You'd have to bring it into the Commissioner of Revenue or mail it, and there would be parameters, a $300 change from the previous year, or you cannot be getting more than $3,000 back. But Mr. President, members of the Senate, the commissioners believe that this helps a lot of elderly folks and low-income folks, and they put a surprisingly large amount of their staff towards tax returns each year. So with that in mind, Mr. President, I move that Senate Bill 531 pass.
I thank the senator. Do any senators wish to be heard on this bill? The question is, shall Senate Bill 531 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. Senate Bill 531 passes.
Uncontested calendar. Senate bills on second reading.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd now move that all Senate bills on the second reading, on the uncontested calendar, including all Senate bills on pages 9 through 14, including Senate Bill 69 through Senate Bill 775, be engrossed in advance to the third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments. Any senator who desires to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 9 through 14, Senate Bill 69 through Senate Bill 775, be engrossed in advance to the third reading in the block after the adoption of the amendments thereto? That any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to.
Senate Bill 69, reported from the Committee on Finance. Senate Bill 96, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with amendments.
The senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the committee amendments be adopted.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be adopted? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are adopted.
Senate Bill 258, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendments.
The senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the committee amendments.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be adopted? All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are adopted.
Senate Bill 305, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
The senator from Petersburg, Senator Dance.
Move the substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 315, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendment.
The senator from Mecklenburg, Senator Ruff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the committee amendment.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 363, reported from the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 411, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 413, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 515, reported from the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 575, reported from the Committee on Transportation, and we have a floor amendment.
The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator DeSteff.
Mr. President, I move the floor amendment and would like to waive the reading.
Okay, we'll start with waiving. All those in favor of waiving the reading will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading is waived.
Mr. President, if I may, the floor amendment here is only technical in nature as a technical oversight in referencing one of the code sections. With that, I'd like to move the floor amendment.
The question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 673, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
Senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, I move that the committee substitute be adopted.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted.
Senate Bill 679, reported from the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 760, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
The senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 775, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendments.
The senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Mr. President, I move that the committee amendments be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Regular calendar. Senate bills on second reading. Oh, excuse me.
Sorry. The question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed in advance to their third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed in advance to their third reading.
Regular calendar. Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 106, relating to congressional and state legislative districts compactness standards, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections with a substitute.
The senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Mr. President, we're still working on the amendment, which will hopefully make it unanimous, and so I'd request that go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 106 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 73, a bill relating to overweight permits for hauling Virginia-grown farm produce, bridges, and culverts, reported from the Committee on Transportation.
The senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be engrossed and passed on to its third reading. Would you like to hear about it?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Actually, or not.
Nope.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll hear about it
We'll do it tomorrow. Perfect. Yep. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 74, a bill relating to hands-free operation of handheld personal communications devices in motor vehicles, exceptions.
Senator from Eastern Fairfax.
On Transportation with a substitute.
Excuse me, Madam Clerk. The senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Surville.
Move the committee substitute.
Senator from Rockingham, Sir Obenchain. Wish to be heard? No?
I move the committee substitute.
Question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to.
Mr. President.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenchain. For what purpose does the senator rise?
Mr. President, I rise for motion. Mr. President, I've spoken to the patrons of this bill. We had a similar bill earlier in courts of justice, and given the nature of this bill and the penalties that apply, I would respectfully request that this bill be recommitted or re-referred to the Committee on Courts of Justice.
The senator from Eastern Fairfax, which should be heard.
Speaking to the motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. With great trepidation, but with great confidence, they'll be treated extremely fairly by my colleagues on the other side, about my bill, which is much narrower than the bills they rejected earlier. I would do not object to the motion.
Do not object to the motion. Okay. The question is, shall the bill be re-referred to the Committee on the Courts of Justice? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is re-referred to the Committee on Courts of Justice.
Senate Bill 100, a bill relating to new sentencing hearing, abolition of parole, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill does not have any amendments. I'd be happy to present it today, but I believe I'll just do it tomorrow.
Senator, what's your engrossed in advance?
I do ask that it be engrossed in advance to its third reading, though.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 100 be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 100 is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 101, a bill relating to high school family life education curricula, law and meaning of consent. Reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the committee substitute be adopted.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted. The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 104, a bill relating to reckless driving exceeding speed limit. Reported from the Committee on Transportation.
The senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move that Senate Bill 104 now be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 104 be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 104 is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 372, a bill relating to carrying dangerous weapon to places of religious worship. Reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
The senator from Russell, Senator Chafin.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 372 be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 372 is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 410, a bill relating to steady burning blue or red lights on law enforcement vehicles. Reported from the Committee on Transportation.
The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move Senate Bill 410 be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 410 be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 410 is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 586, a bill relating to exhaust system in good working order, excluded vehicles. Reported from the Committee on Transportation.
The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Steph.
Mr. President, I request that Senate Bill 586 be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 586 be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading? All those in favor will say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 586 is engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading.
Senate Bill 792, a bill relating to special license plates, Friends of the Blue Ridge Parkway. Reported from the Committee on Transportation with amendment.
Mr. President, I respectfully ask the bill be passed by for the day.
Without objection, the bill will be passed by for the day.
Senate Bill 866, a bill to make certain hospital licenses effective until December 1, 2018. Reported from the Committee on Education and Health.
Senator from Franklin, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now move that Senate Bill 866 be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 866 be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 866 will be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I respectfully move that the rules of the Senate be suspended. Let me back up. Mr. President, I respectfully move that the rules of the Senate be suspended and that the first constitutional reading of the title of all the Senate bills on the first reading on both the uncontested and regular calendar be waived.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 18 through 21, Senate Bill 375 through Senate Bill 555, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now move that the bills be passed by for the day, sir.
The question is, shall the Senate bills in the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading be passed by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Inquiry of the clerk. Does that complete today's calendar?
Yes, sir.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate? The senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Mr. President, I rise on a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, just last week, by a party line vote in the Senate Education and Health Committee, unconstitutional, medically unnecessary abortion restrictions were upheld. Regardless of the personal beliefs of anyone in this chamber or anywhere else, Roe v. Wade made it clear that every woman has a right to access an abortion, and no politician can deny that. Today marks the 45th anniversary of the Supreme Court's landmark decision in Roe v. Wade. That decision recognized that the constitutional right to privacy extends to a woman's right to make her own personal medical decisions, including the decision to have an abortion without interference from politicians. 45 years later, 7 in 10 Americans believe Roe v. Wade should remain the law of the land. In 1965, illegal abortions made up 1/6 of all pregnancy and childbirth-related deaths. Now that abortion is legal, it has become one of the safest medical procedures in the United States, with a safety record of over 99%. Because abortion is legal, women who decide to terminate a pregnancy can receive support throughout the process from medical professionals. To chip away at Roe v. Wade and ultimately ban abortion nationwide, anti-abortion politicians in Congress and here in the Virginia General Assembly have pushed bills that restrict access. Targeted regulations of abortion providers, veiled as safety measures, attempted to force women's health clinics in Virginia to close. 10% of Americans don't want to see Roe v. Wade overturned, according to surveys from Quinnipiac University and Pew Research. That's the highest rate since the case was decided 45 years ago. And it includes people who voted for Donald Trump. Support for Roe v. Wade is on the rise. Contrary to stereotypes, 67% of Hispanic voters do not want to see Roe v. Wade overturned, and 82% agree with women making their own decision on abortion without political interference. Abortion is a deeply personal and often complex decision for a woman. One can't make that decision for someone else. Ultimately, decisions about whether to choose adoption, end a pregnancy, or raise a child must be left to a woman with the counsel of her family, her physician, or healthcare provider, not politicians. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. The senior senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. Point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, halfway through my tour in Vietnam, I fought on the ground as a forward air controller. And during a series of skirmishes between Charlie Company, 1st Marines, and another equivalent company on the communist side, we fought a week-long series of skirmishes. And one night we were pinned down, and I was in the mud, in the water, in a bomb crater, and tracers were flying overhead. And throughout the night, there were sounds coming from a thatched roof hut that was nearby. But I really didn't listen to them very much because I was concentrated on staying alive and shivering with the cold and distracted. And finally, after a long night of just ice-cold misery in the water, I began to warm up as the sun came out, and I got out of the shell crater. The firing had stopped, and I aimed my rifle forward, and I walked up to the hut to check out and see what was inside. And a woman emerged from the hut. She was about my age. We were both kids. She was a Vietnamese woman, and she walked up to me, and she had in her arms 2 dead children. And she just looked in my eyes. And I'll never forget looking back at her, feeling her pain and my own. Because I realized as I looked at her that I had been hearing these children, and I just hadn't paid attention to them. I'd been too busy watching the tracers fly over and hearing the shells and worrying about myself. And I guess it was at that time I decided that that would be the last time that I ever failed to hear the voices of the children. So when I hear all of the praise for Roe versus Wade, which has killed far more children than died in that very terrible and bloody war, I hear the voices of those children again. And I won't go into great detail, but I'll just mention just a very small portion of a bit of testimony by Dr. Tony Lavantino, an OBGYN who used to perform abortions. And he described, he said, once you have grabbed something inside during a dilation and evacuation, then you squeeze on the clamp to set the jaws and you pull hard, really hard. You feel something let go and it pops a fully formed leg about 4 to 5 inches long. You reach in again, and I'm not going to continue with it, but I'm going to tell you it goes on and on. It is a vicious and hideous process. We've had legislation in this body previously, at least in the General Assembly, where I have personally proposed that if we're going to kill the child, then we anesthetize the child at least. We at least give the child the benefit of relief from this horrible pain. This is the same type of process that was used as a punishment back in middle-aged England, where it's drawn, where people were drawn and quartered. They were tied up. They had their arms, their legs tied to horses. And then on signal, the horses were whipped, and the horses ran in different directions. This is what we're doing when we do these things to these children. So I don't look forward to discussing Roe versus Wade, but I will never forget the voices of the children. I did it once. And I will probably think back literally until the day that I die. And I will wonder if I had simply been conscious, if I had thought about what's happening in that hut nearby. Is there something that I could do? Maybe it's worth getting out of there, running through the gunfire, seeing if there's something that I could do. I didn't know, and I'm sorry. But I won't forget the children again. Thank you, Mr. President.
The senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for announcement.
Senator has the floor.
So tomorrow, for all my colleagues, DMV to Go Mobile Customer Service Center will be at the plaza at the Bank Street and Pocahontas building from 8 to 4. I just wanted to let everyone know that if you need anything for registration renewals, disabled placards, veterans ID cards, vehicle registrations, they'll be there for anyone that needs any type of service. And to remind everyone that DMV continues to promote in partnerships with state agencies. DMV customers can access vital records, easy pass transponders, hunting and fishing licenses, death and marriage certificates, divorce certificates, birth certificates, except for the senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw. You probably have to go to a cave somewhere. It's carved into the wall and take a photocopy of that one. But nevertheless, you can get your birth certificate there if you need it. And I just want to remind everyone, if they want to stop by, that they can visit that DMV to Go Center tomorrow and get whatever they need at that location. Thank you.
I thank the senator. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I rise for purposes of several announcements, sir.
The senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are rapidly approaching the midpoint of the session, and I'm trying to look ahead a little bit. And I know how some of you are night owls and welcome the opportunity to stay here until 11 or 12 at night. But at my age, that is long past my bedtime, so I'm looking ahead just a little bit. I appreciate that a senator was ill today. The unfortunate thing is that there are a lot of germs that are passing around in the Pocahontas building, and we may be looking ahead to a number of days where we don't have a full complement here. And I think that we're going to have to look a little more carefully, even though we want to be very courteous, look very carefully about continuing to pass bills by for the day. We're going to find ourselves with a logjam here as we approach crossover, so I just ask you to consider that. Secondly, I would say that I started the rampage of asking for unanimous consent, and one of my colleagues suggested very accurately that that would lead to others. I will say, Mr. President, while I'm hoping that there will not be any more requests for unanimous consent, Friday's it. It's too long, Senator Wagner. I would remind you, and Mr. President is trying very hard, it's just that we are being disobedient children and not listening very well. When we have guests, that it is appropriate for us to introduce the guests, but it is more appropriate for Mr. President to welcome them. And as exuberant as you may be about having folks from home here, when he says he would like to welcome them and join us in welcoming them, that is the appropriate time to applaud and not the spontaneity before that. Finally, I would say, in an effort to continue to move along, the protocol and the rules in the Senate, when we have Senate bills on the second reading, the only thing we do is to adopt an amendment, to adopt a substitute, or pass it by the day. We do not need to even give passing fancy at trying to explain the bill at that point in time. If asked by a fellow senator, or you think it is appropriate to explain that amendment or substitute, is one thing, but we do not need to get to the substantive provisions of the bills. So I just ask those thoughts as we look ahead and try to move forward. And speaking of moving forward, the last announcement I would have is I would invite all of the Republican senators to move forward with great dispatch upon adjournment to Senate Room 2 here in the Capitol. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I rise today to pay tribute to the memory of Thomas Jonathan Stonewall Jackson. I recognize we've had some eloquent points of privilege here today. Yesterday happened to be Stonewall Jackson's birthday, and it is tradition and this date had been reserved for just a few remarks. Mr. President, I've done this numerous times before, and I expect that someone on this floor has repeated this tradition here in the Virginia General Assembly every year, perhaps 155 times, over 155 years, since Jackson was killed in battle and lay in state here behind me down the hall in this Capitol. And yet today is different. We all know it, and we struggle to hide our discomfort. Discomfort with people who have given disgusting voice and vile action to the racism and bigotry that seemingly respectable people have often managed to hide in their hearts. We are better than that, and we should never accept those beliefs or attitudes from anyone, no matter what their situation in life. What most people have accepted as a part of our history to remember, to honor, to memorialize, to educate, has been revisited and elevated the focus of the past, our history, in a very uncivil discourse. We can't change history, but we can debate whether we should erase the memory of our heroes, who in fact turned out to be just mortal men and women with the same shortcomings as all of us. How disappointing. We can, as is often pointed out, learn from our history and study the context of the actions of these people who were prominent in shaping our heritage. We can learn from the past generations that have shaped us all and pledge to do our part to provide a positive legacy for all of the Commonwealth's future generations, no matter what their race or national origin. We have a great facility down the hill, Mr. President, along the river, the new American Civil War Museum that should become a focus in educating current and future generations about what took place right here and throughout much of Virginia on our soil. My great-great-grandfather served with Jackson in the Stonewall Brigade. My dad served in World War II in the Stonewall Brigade. I had the honor of serving in the Stonewall Brigade during my own military service. Jackson was not a perfect man. As a devout Christian, he had conflicting views on slavery, but there is no questioning the fact that in his short life, he became one of the most respected military leaders the modern world has known, and there is no disputing the fact that he, along with 32,511 other Virginians, died in what they believed to be faithful service to our state. Mr. President, I move that when the Senate adjourn today, we adjourn in memory of Stonewall Jackson.
Let's come before the Senate. The Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
I rise for two announcements.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very briefly, this is a sacred and profane announcement. The sacred is tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. we will reconvene the Sunrise Caucus. That's been a Bible study group we've had dating back, 30 years, but I've been in it since 2001. And we will be studying the Old Testament prophets. So if that has any relevance to your life, or even if it doesn't, you're welcome to come by at 7 a.m. in the Speaker's Conference Room, 6th floor. Second announcement.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a letter to the State Corporation Commission. We have a number of bills this year which are touching on electricity rates and the effect on consumers, and asking the staff to study those bills and the effect on consumers. So if you want to sign on to my letter, please say hello to me. Thanks.
Any other business come before the Senate? Senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Could we return to the morning hour briefly for an introduction?
The Senator has the floor.
I'd like to introduce someone who indirectly is responsible for 60 of the bills we have this session, and I do not hold it against her. She's also a leader of the preservation and the restoration of an area in my district called Dyke Marsh. The president of Dyke Marsh, Ms. Glenda, Friends of Dyke Marsh, Ms. Glenda Booth is here today. And she has this relationship with the author of the 60 bills. I'm looking at him. I think everyone knows who he is, Senator Surville. With that, I ask that you give her the greetings of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would Ms. Booth please rise? We want to thank you for coming today. We understand that the good senator may have over 100 bills, and you are responsible for many. And we thank you, but we're delighted to have you today. I would hope that the Senate would give the warm welcome of the Senate to Ms. Booth. Is there any other business to come before the Senate? The senator from James City, Senator Normant.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would now ask that the Senate of Virginia stand in recess until 12 noon tomorrow, and when we adjourn today, that we adjourn in the memory of Thomas Jonathan Stonewall Jackson.
Mr. President, Senator from James City, is there any other business to come before the Senate? The clerk, is there any other business to come before the Senate? The clerk will report any announcements on her desk.
Announcements for Monday, January 22nd, 2018. Committee on General Laws and Technology will meet 1 hour after adjournment in Senate Room 3 in the Capitol. This is a change.
1 hour and 15 minutes.
Committee on General Laws and Technology will meet 1 hour and 15 minutes after adjournment in Senate Room 3 in the Capitol. This is a change. 1 hour and 15 minutes after adjournment. Committee on Commerce and Labor will meet 1 hour after adjournment in Senate Room A. The Finance Subcommittee on Health and Human Resources will meet at 4:00 p.m. in the 5th floor Subcommittee Room Number 1. Senators Hanger, Howell, Norman, Newman, Barker, Donovan, Stewart, and Dance. The Northern Virginia delegation will meet at 5:00 p.m. in the 6th floor Speakers Conference Room. For Tuesday, January 23, 2018, the Finance Subcommittee on Economic Development and Natural Resources will meet at 7:30 a.m. in the 5th floor Subcommittee Room Number 1. Senators Ruff, Saslaw, Hanger, Wagner, Obenshain, Stewart, and Dance. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Health Professions will meet at 8:30 a.m. in the 5th floor Subcommittee Room Number 2. Senators Donovan, Suderline, Carrico, Barker, Lucas, and Peake. Committee on Finance will meet at 9:00 a.m. in Committee Room B. The Republican Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 2. The Democratic Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 1.
If there's nothing else to come before the Senate, the motion is shall the Senate now adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow? And when we do so in memory of the General Stonewall Jackson. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, no. And the Senate stands adjourned.